So, the other day I was made aware of a creating tip video by Waboo. I saw a clip of one of the tips in that video and my curiosity got the best of me. And I watched the entire video and my god. Many of the so-called tips are actively harmful for new creators. So in this video, I'm going over them and explaining why you should not use them and what to do instead. Enjoy.
Trick number 1. If you place a filled circle object behind an orb, you can make the orb look a lot cooler and give it a lot of different colors.
This does not work when playing the level because orbs and pulsing objects pulse differently. You can get it to work kinda well on a loud part with a 0.6 scale big circle and a quiet part with 0.4 scale big circle and 1.45 small circle, but it won't be perfect.
When you enable don't fade and don't enter for all your objects, your level will look a million times better.
This depends on the style. Some styles like modern usually look much better with don't fade, but design levels can look better without it. Don't enter only affects these things and can be used for effects like in my level 000 and Nelf by Xaro Guilester.
When you make a small piece of glow giant, you can still do a lot of things with it. One of these things is you being able to make this glow cover your entire level.
This is unreliable and can cause lag. Use the gradient trigger instead for large glows like this.
Enable normal music in editor. This allows you to listen to your level's music even when in practice mode.
You need to buy that option in the diamond shop. Also, just use start position.
But instead of a boring triple spike, you can use speed portals.
Huh?
You can also just make the current spikes way more spiky.
No, just add decoration to the spikes.
Just click on the plus next to the background button and you can adjust colors while seeing the background change.
Actually a good tip to fine-tune the background color.
By placing different letters on top of each other, you're able to create a realistic looking chain.
I don't know about realistic, but using text is clever. Just make sure you use a blending color for it or you will have a black outline and a drop shadow on it.
A standard block looks ugly, so how about we make it way more beautiful? First, make it 0.9 times the size of its usual form and add balls in each corner like this. Now add some lines and you have a way cooler looking block you can use.
There is already a square object with rounded corners. If that's not round enough for you, you can use this block and add the circles on the corners to make a more rounded version for 5 objects instead of 9. With just one more object, you can make the corners as rounded as you want if you scale a square properly, as shown here.
You can make your level more interesting by adding small versions of your structure inside your level.
More variation is good, but you should make different shapes instead of different sizes.
To make an object have a shiny effect, put 2 of these objects on it. If you place one of them on a block, copy it and turn it around, you can, without adding glow, get a cool effect when your object enters the screen.
Or you can just use any block underneath your block without don't fade for the same effect.
Fill a soul with black objects to make it look better.
Use a circle to fill it with a single object.
You can make it rotate really slowly when typing this number into the rotate trigger speed, together with the rotation lasting 15 seconds. This is the end result.
Just press edit special to change the speed of the saw or disable it altogether without any triggers. The saw speed and direction is random every time you enter a level, making the saw sometimes go super fast instead of slow with a rotate trigger.
You can make a good looking lamp in just 4 objects, like this creator did in his art piece.
Don't steal from others. You can use other people's creations as inspiration, but don't just steal their stuff.
Inside the level, he very smartly used particles to create electrical wires throughout the whole level.
And how did he do that? Make the speed of the particle trigger 0 and use pos var x or pos var y. In general, the particle trigger is great for little details like this.
You can rotate unrotatable objects with warp.
No, you can't. In the editor, the hitbox stays the same, and after leaving the editor, it resets to the original rotation.
What about making a flower out of 2 hearts and an arrow? It looks actually kind of mid.
Why even include this if you acknowledge it looks bad? There's a flower object in the game you can use anyway.
This block right now looks hella boring, but how about now?
Worse.
It looks so much better. Just copy your block, place it 1 pixel to the...
Me when I copy paste the block and put it behind the other one.
Go to your settings and put the buttons per row and button rows to the highest number possible. Now your editor looks like this.
Personal preference, but yeah.
You can make leaves with clouds.
You can also use the new particle objects like the smoke and cloud particles to add even more variation and make it fit your style more.
This door looks like it takes hundreds of objects.
No, just 2 or 3 max.
You can make an easy conveyor belt or ground effect with these objects that look like they are moving.
Yeah, I, for example, did that in my level Doledanos.
Let's give our object color 1. Click on copy color and put an ID of another color in there. Let's say color 2. Now go to color 2 and put the ID of color 1 in it. Boom! You now have a flickering object.
You can do this very simply with a single color trigger, and it also looks much better. Place a color trigger and copy the color channel of the object. Change hue to +1 and make sure the object ID is not the object's color. Press OK and open it again and change the object ID to the colors channel. Now you have a rainbow effect.
Make this small circle really big, then make it black with an opacity of 50% and put it behind the portal.
If you want to place something behind the portals, you should probably use the objects in the saw tab.
I made it turn red whenever I need to jump, so instead of placing tens of indicators throughout my entire level, I can just place down one and call it a day.
That not only takes more effort, but it looks hideous and it's way less legible. Use normal jump indicators and make them go up and down slowly.
This mod adds BPM information about every song in Geometry Dash, making you able to easily add pulses on the beat.
There is a BPM trigger in the game. You can use that instead of downloading a mod for it.
These wave objects look cool, but there's a trick you can do with them. By making them blue and putting them below each other, you can, with a few objects on the side, create a very simple waterfall.
Good tip. Now with particle triggers you can even add a splashing effect at the bottom to make it even more convincing.
By stretching this fire object, you can make an even simpler one of around the same quality.
You definitely need more than just that, but it could be a good starting point.
What if you make a level where people need to avoid obstacles that teleport you to an unescapable prison? Or even worse.
That's a terrible idea.
Okay, that was a joke.
Good.
Add 10 glow particles next to each other and make each one brighter than the previous one by adding one extra glow object. You can easily choose your brightness like this.
This is not a good idea. You should spend a bit more time to change the color of each glow. This way you can also easily hue shift them according to color theory as well, and it saves objects.
If you make the base color, which is the first color that pops up here, invisible, you get these custom shapes that you can place anywhere in your level.
That's actually pretty cool. Only useful for small details though, due to how blurry they get when scaled up.
I talked about jump indicators a while back, and an even better way to show these in your level is by using particles to create an animated effect for the indicator with just one object. You can copy these values for this effect.
Honestly, that's a good tip. It's highly customizable too.
This right here is a structure. I'm not gonna lie, looks super boring. But if we add structures inside the structure, all of a sudden it looks way better.
Wow, 3 good tips in a row. I'll be honest, I struggle with structuring, so maybe this will help even me.
Use Ctrl-Z to rapidly undo your mistakes.
Would be much simpler with select filter. Or do you not know select filter?
Use different buttons to move your object or rotate it.
Q and E rotate it. You can also use shift to rotate 45 degrees or alt to mirror. Also shift with WASD moves a small step.
You can make blocks slippery by enabling the ice block function.
There are also options for a grip slope so you don't slide off of a slope, among many other things.
Place one of these objects down in the editor and put tiny squares in them so they look like buildings.
I don't even know what to say for this. Spend more time to make an actual building instead of this.
By warping 2 of these bushes to the right and to the left and combining them, you can create a more detailed cloud.
What kind of have you ever seen a cloud like that in your life? Bro, if I look up in the sky and see a cloud like that, I know the apocalyptic trilogy is about to fucking enter.
If you go to the delete section and click on the bottom right button while having an object selected, you can from now on only delete that object, nothing else. The rest will stay intact when deleting stuff. Also with this feature, by enabling the select filter, you can select specific objects in one swipe.
So you do know select filter.
You can turn slopes into better looking spikes like this.
Sure, but you also need to add a hitbox for the spike because this is just a decoration.
Put animated objects to one frame so they become static and you can easily fit them into your level.
Quite often you want the animation, but it could definitely be useful.
Add random grass and bushes into your level to make it feel more alive.
In general, adding small details will make your level look much more polished.
You can make a custom ladder with a lava animation, which will also make it swing realistically.
That's a really clever trick by Girly Ale, but I wouldn't go and steal it outright.
An easy fix is by adding black glow in front of the speed portal, but behind the orb.
It would be better not to stack them if possible. If you have to, make it semi-transparent at least.
Enable link controls in the editor options. This will add a weird chain button on the left of your screen, which is really useful. By selecting a structure and clicking on the chain, it now counts as one object.
It doesn't count as one object, but selecting any object within the linked group will select all the rest as well. Fantastic tool. If you need to edit a specific object within a linked group, you can disable it for a while.
With two of the particles looking away from each other, you can make a story night background in a single minute. These are the settings you need to use for it.
You only need one particle trigger for this. Here are the settings I used for my level, but be sure to experiment to make it fit your level.
When you want to make your object look a little better, you often put glow behind it. But don't make the mistake of making the glow the exact same color. Instead, make it a slightly different darker color.
Darker is not always the answer. Also, should hue shift it according to color theory and probably use blending.
Turn on ignore damage to playtest your level without dying the entire time.
That's good. Just make sure the gameplay is still fun when you play normally.
With the image mod, you can import any image you want in the game.
Don't do that. That is literally just tracing. You're literally an art thief if you do this. Woo! So how about you start tracing?
You should steal art.
You should steal art and start tracing.
Check the green line. If it looks a bit choppy, place the portal at a place where the green line almost looks completely smooth and everything will flow so much better.
This has nothing to do with the flow. You could easily put the wave portal right after the jump. It all depends on how it actually flows and how it syncs with the music.
To quickly place down objects, you can click the swipe button and just hold while you're spamming objects on the screen. However, with the option hold to swipe, you just need to hold to quickly place down objects. And
on PC you can also just hold shift or press T to toggle swipe mode.
by placing a smoke effect down and extending it with a warp trigger, you can turn it into a good looking cloud.
Add some variation with different objects and sizes and it should be pretty good.
A simple way to check if your level looks good before uploading it is to turn the game mode to platformer for a bit. You can stand still and carefully inspect each object for mistakes.
Or just inspect them in the editor. If you have something that isn't really visible in the editor, you can time warp to 0.1x speed to give you more time to see it.
Typing a colon in the standard GD font. Put two of these symbols opposite to each other and keep rotating them one by one until it looks like a circle.
What are you even supposed to do with this? Using squares for this makes it at least usable. You could also try it with different objects to make some interesting shapes, I guess.
You can just copy the structure and the triggers and click on the build helper. This will immediately change all groups to a value that hasn't been chosen yet and does all the annoying work for you.
Build helper is amazing. Definitely recommend it. There are also buttons for looping and aligning X and Y position, for example.
The moon can be used in a level as decoration, but for different ways too. If you extend it and make it small, it can work as a way to easily make cool artworks like this kitty that has been made out of just moons.
That kitty was not made with moons because you can't color the moon properly. They most likely use this crescent-shaped object. These particle objects can be used to make interesting shapes with few objects. I definitely recommend messing around with them.
For a cool gameplay effect, you can make a red orb follow you, so every time you click, you do a giant jump.
You can also jump in the air an infinite amount of time. Instead of the orb, just lower the gravity with this trigger for the same effect.
What about a simple water reflection you can make with this object right here? Place it on the water you made, make it a lighter color, and you now have a very simple but amazing reflection.
A single animated object won't cut it, but adding some more variation could make for a cool water ripple effect.
Copy this site 5 times or more for this really cool effect that makes it very dangerous.
Same thing as before with the saw. The speed and direction is random. Instead, set a specific seed and copy paste it 3 times, rotating it by 90 degrees each time.
If the ship part in your level looks a little empty, add these arrows into the level that fill up the space really quickly if you put down a lot of them.
Or maybe, you know, actually build a level?
I made my level way too hard, but I don't want to redo the entire thing. What should I do?
Nerf it.
What you can do is add a very sneaky secret way.
No! Nerf it. Just nerf it.
You can use this fire animation right here to make grass. Make sure it's static first, and then just place it down somewhere in the level.
Again, with variation, that's a good tip.
A good way to choose the colors of your structure is to use this strategy. First, make sure the structure will have just one certain color. Now make each tint of colors +6 hue and -8 brightness. The different tints look like this, and with these colors you can make some amazing block designs, which work for every single color.
Funnily enough, the given color example is the worst color combo. This is basically an attempt to fake color theory without knowing anything. Learn color theory and your creations will look much better.
These colors and block designs I talked about might be too hard for you to make. So if you really struggle with it, start by making a huge object and decorate it from there. Once done, make it tinier with the warp button and you now have a super detailed block that looks good.
221 objects for this. That's terrible. Don't do this. Build it normally so you have a better grasp at how detailed it should be. Smaller scales should have fewer details.
2 tips about the soul. Try placing them in the ground with only a small piece poking out and make them go really slow. It'll look way better.
And what if you need the saw above the player? This is nothing but a gameplay choice, not a tip. And making the saw slow was literally a tip you gave already.
Grab this object and rotate it so it looks like a circle, and that's it.
This won't work because that specific object rotates, so you'd have to disable it. You can also do it with a single object. If you need a different size, you can use this object, but you have to disable the rotation and use 3 of them because they're slightly transparent.
If you're making a level with an insane amount of objects,
which you would with these tips,
stop before ruining your life.
Well, you said it.
Begin instead of the start from the end of the level, to avoid lag when using a start position to test out parts of your level.
Sure, but you have to be certain of speed, portals and transitions first. Making transitions from the end to the beginning is much harder than the other way, so I wouldn't recommend this tip.
For a cool effect, you can add a block on these pixel chains and make them drop down with a move trigger effect.
Yeah. A rule of thumb I've made is that if your movement starts on the screen, you should ease in and out, unless you want to bounce out or something else. It will make the level feel much smoother without sudden movements.
When using a bulge trigger, you can make it a ball. It still interacts like the cube, but just looks like a ball. Even though it's not useful, I still felt like mentioning it.
That's a terrible tip. It also distorts the area around the player. Use the shader trigger to change the layer that all of your shaders affect.
Did you know that you can recreate Raptopus' icon in Geometry Dash? With these 2 objects, you can make his icon and add him inside your level if it relates to him.
Why did you make him cross-eyed? Just place a square behind the main icon to fill the eyes and mouth.
A super smart idea is the following trick.
Ooh, exciting. A super smart idea.
Create a black canvas out of these specific small objects and make sure everything is filled. Now go to the delete section and turn on the swipe mode. From here you can start carving out a nice background to use in your level, which can look really cool if you spend some effort on it.
Wait, I want to see how many objects you put down.
Create a black canvas out of...
Oh my god.
That was like 13,000. Chat, I'm literally saying chat at this point. Don't fucking do this.
Create a black
This is gonna kill a phone.
With this particle object, think about the bottom part being gone.
Which you can do by setting the static frame to frame 10, by the way.
And it being bigger. Yeah, it looks exactly like a scratch by a monster that can be used for great effects.
Use other objects too and not just this one, otherwise it gets too repetitive.
This is the color button, used to change the color of an object. But when you have your object selected, you, instead of clicking on this color button, can also click twice on it, which makes an HSV tab open up. Now you can easily change the HSV of an object without going to the edit tab, clicking on a color and then changing it.
Personal preference, but yeah, it's good to know.
The first one is this orb consisting out of just 8 objects that are listed here from left to right. Put all of them on top of each other and you have this amazing looking orb.
You don't need that many glows and it won't look good because the orb will pulse in game, but the swirly things won't.
This laser beam can be remade in Geometry Dash. Any animated object works. Just extend it vertically and boom, you got yourself a beam.
Why did you turn off preview animations for this one? Is it perhaps because this effect will not look at all like what you wanted? So you lie about it?
Our third design hack is using these blood splatter objects to create detailed leaves that you can put on blocks or a custom-made tree.
I wouldn't use that, but rather one of the smoke particles, but sure, that could work.
And what's also cool is a rainbow effect you can make by adding a pulse trigger with the hue put all the way to the right, and then adding a lot of these triggers in the editor next to each other to keep the effect going.
This is a very ineffective and time-consuming way to make a rainbow trigger. Just create a pulse loop with a create loop button.
You can upgrade this boring looking soul here in just one step. By adding 3 black boxes in it, like this, the soul looks so much more epic.
No, it looks worse.
Which also gives you an optical illusion.
What optical illusion?
The final design tip for today is you being able to create a cinematic effect by placing 2 black bars on the top and bottom of the screen and making them move with the player.
Probably not a good idea to use this for the entire level, but for a cutscene it could be really good. Good tip. And the final tip was to sub to their channel, but I urge you to sub to my channel instead. I post every once in a blue moon, so a big thank you to my channel members Notmorco and Pyro Burnham for being here despite that. I also have a Discord server, link in the description alongside my socials. But that's it. Thank you for watching. I'll see you guys later. Bye bye.